Maria Gonzalez had been working at the hospital for 15 years, but what she witnessed that night would force her to confront the darkest secret of her life. The sounds she heard in the operating room corridor at 3:17 a.m. would expose the horrifying truth happening within the hospital walls. What started as a routine cleaning shift would become the most dangerous night of her career, revealing a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of the medical establishment. St. Mary's Hospital was one of Los Angeles' most prestigious private medical facilities. Located in the affluent Beverly Hills area, it catered to celebrities, politicians, and wealthy business executives. The hospital was renowned for its state-of-the-art surgical procedures, world-class physicians, and impeccable reputation. Its marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and the walls were adorned with awards and accolades from medical organizations worldwide. Maria had started working there when she was just 28 years old, a single mother desperate for steady employment with good benefits. Now, at 43, she had become an invisible fixture of the night shift, moving through the corridors like a ghost, cleaning up after the day's medical miracles. She took pride in her work, ensuring every surface was spotless, every room sanitized to perfection. That Tuesday night in October had started like any other. Maria arrived for work at 10 p.m., clocking in at the staff entrance and collecting her supplies from the custodial closet. The hospital's night atmosphere was always different from the bustling energy of daytime operations. The corridors were dimly lit, filled with the soft beeping of monitors and the occasional footsteps of nurses making their rounds. Around midnight, she noticed Dr. Harrison still in his office, which was unusual. Dr. Michael Harrison was the hospital's chief of cardiac surgery, a man in his mid-50s with silver hair and an impeccable reputation. He typically left the hospital by 8 p.m. As she passed his office, she could see him through the glass partition, speaking intensely on the phone. His usually composed demeanor seemed agitated. As the night progressed, Maria began to notice other irregularities. Dr. Patterson, the hospital's transplant coordinator, was also still present, accompanied by two men she had never seen before. They weren't wearing hospital identification badges, and their expensive suits seemed out of place in the medical environment. Around 2:30 a.m., Maria overheard a heated conversation coming from the conference room. "The timeline is too tight," someone was saying. "We need more preparation time." "Time is a luxury we don't have," came Dr. Harrison's voice. "The recipient is flying in from Dubai tonight. Everything must proceed as scheduled." At 3 a.m., as Maria began cleaning the surgical wing, she noticed light seeping from under operating room 7. This immediately caught her attention because OR 7 was typically reserved for elective cardiac procedures during regular hours. Through the door's window, she could hear urgent conversations that didn't sound like typical medical discussions. Gathering her courage, Maria stepped closer to the door's window and peered inside. What she saw made her blood run cold. Dr. Harrison stood at the operating table, but this wasn't a standard surgical procedure. On the table lay a patient who appeared unconscious, connected to life support machines. What horrified Maria most was what she saw on the surgical instruments table: carefully arranged human organs in sterile containers, being prepared for transport rather than transplantation into the patient. Dr. Patterson was there, along with the two men in suits. One stranger was placing organs into specialized transport containers filled with preservation solution. The other was handling documentation and payment arrangements. "The heart is still viable," Dr. Harrison was saying, "but we need to move quickly. The cooling time is critical for the corneas." "What about the death certificate?" one of the suited men asked. "Already prepared," Dr. Patterson replied. "Sudden cardiac arrest. The family has already been notified that he took a turn for the worse. They live on the East Coast and have arranged for immediate cremation." Maria felt nauseated as she realized they were discussing a living patient as if he were already dead, systematically harvesting his organs while fabricating his death. "The buyer in Dubai is paying premium rates," one man said. "Heart and liver together, $800,000. The kidneys go to separate buyers in Switzerland and Japan, another $400,000 combined." As Maria tried to process the scale of this operation, She accidentally knocked her elbow against her cleaning cart. A spray bottle fell, hitting the floor with a loud clatter. The conversation stopped immediately. "What was that?" Dr. Harrison's voice was sharp with alarm. Panic flooding through her, Maria quickly pushed her cart away and hurried to the supply closet, slipping inside just as the operating room door opened. Through the small gap, she watched as one of the suited men emerged and scanned the corridor. "I don't see anyone," he called back. "Probably just something that fell over." "Check the security cameras," Dr. Harrison commanded. "The corridor cameras show a cleaning cart passing by, but whoever it was is gone now." Maria held her breath in the darkness, surrounded by cleaning supplies, too terrified to move. Over the next hour, she listened as the sounds from the operating room gradually died down before she dared to emerge. When her shift ended at 6 a.m., Maria sat in her car, staring at the hospital building where she had worked for 15 years. The institution she had respected was harboring a monstrous secret. At home, Maria couldn't sleep. She began researching online, looking into recent patient deaths at St. Mary's Hospital. What she discovered made her stomach turn. Over the past 6 months, there had been an unusual number of sudden deaths among patients who were organ donors. Young, healthy individuals who had come in for routine procedures but experienced unexpected complications. She found obituaries for 12 patients who had died at St. Mary's. All were relatively young and healthy. All were organ donors. All had families who lived far away and had arranged for immediate cremation without autopsy. The pattern was unmistakable. Over the next 2 weeks, Maria documented everything she observed, tracking schedules, photographing suspicious visitors, and noting license plate numbers. She realized this was a sophisticated operation targeting patients who met specific criteria. Organ donors with no local family, scheduled for procedures that could credibly result in complications, with valuable organ compatibility profiles. Finally gathering courage, Maria approached Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez, a young resident who had always shown genuine integrity. During a quiet moment, she told Dr. Rodriguez everything she had witnessed. As Maria showed her evidence, photos, notes, and pattern analysis, Dr. Rodriguez's face grew pale. "This explains some things I've been wondering about," she whispered. "Patient deaths that didn't make medical sense. Rushed organ procurements." Together, they developed a plan. Dr. Rodriguez would access patient records to document suspicious deaths more thoroughly, while Maria continued surveillance. When they had enough proof, they would take everything to the FBI. But their investigation attracted attention. 3 days later, as Maria was leaving work, she noticed the same black sedan that had been in the hospital parking garage following her home. Her hands trembled as she called Dr. Rodriguez. "They know," Maria whispered into her phone. "We have to act now." The next morning, Dr. Rodriguez met Maria at a coffee shop 5 miles from the hospital. "I've compiled everything," she said, sliding a thick envelope across the table. "Medical records, financial irregularities, the whole pattern. We have enough evidence." That afternoon, they walked into the FBI's Los Angeles field office. Special Agent Sarah Chen listened intently as Maria recounted her story, supported by Dr. Rodriguez's medical analysis. The evidence was overwhelming. A systematic organ trafficking operation that had murdered at least 15 patients over 6 months. "We'll need you to wear a wire," Agent Chen told Maria. "Get them on record discussing the operation." 3 nights later, Maria returned to work wearing a hidden recording device. Her heart pounded as she positioned herself near Dr. Harrison's office, where she could hear him on a conference call with his conspirators. "The next harvest is scheduled for Thursday," Dr. Harrison was saying. "The buyer in Tokyo is paying $2 million for a complete organ set. We have the perfect candidate, a 25-year-old coming in for appendix surgery." "What about the investigation concerns?" Dr. Patterson's voice asked. "There's no investigation, just rumors from cleaning staff. Nobody takes janitors seriously." Maria's hand tightened on the recording device as she captured every word. The FBI raid came at dawn the following Thursday. As Maria watched from across the street, federal agents swarmed St. Mary's Hospital. Dr. Harrison, Dr. Patterson, and their accomplices were arrested as they prepared for another harvest. The subsequent investigation revealed the full scope of the conspiracy. The operation had connections to black market organ dealers across 3 continents and had generated over $20 million in illegal profits. 17 families learned that their loved ones hadn't died of natural causes, but had been murdered for their organs. At the trial 6 months later, Maria took the stand as the prosecution's key witness. Her testimony, supported by the recordings and Dr. Rodriguez's medical evidence, was devastating. Dr. Harrison was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dr. Patterson received 40 years. The international buyers and transport coordinators were extradited to face charges in their respective countries. "Your courage saved countless lives," the prosecutor told Maria after the verdict. "Without your willingness to come forward, this would have continued indefinitely." St. Mary's Hospital was shut down permanently, its reputation destroyed beyond repair. The building now stands empty, a monument to the horrors that once occurred within its walls. Maria found a new job at a community clinic, where she continues her work ensuring medical facilities remain clean and safe. But more importantly, she serves as a watchful guardian, knowing that her vigilance can protect vulnerable patients from those who would exploit them. Dr. Rodriguez, inspired by Maria's courage, became an advocate for patient rights and medical ethics. She now leads a foundation that investigates suspicious medical deaths and has helped expose 3 other organ trafficking operations across the country. The case became known as the Night Shift Murders, a reminder that evil can hide behind the most respected institutions. But it also proved that heroes come in all forms, and sometimes the most unlikely person, a janitor working the night shift, can expose the darkest secrets and save countless innocent lives. Maria's bravery didn't just bring criminals to justice. It transformed how hospitals monitor organ procurement and death investigations. New protocols now require multiple independent reviews of organ donor deaths, making it nearly impossible for such operations to function undetected. In her small apartment, Maria keeps a framed letter from the FBI director, thanking her for her service to justice. But what means more to her are the letters from families of survivors, patients who might have been future victims if she hadn't found the courage to speak up. Sometimes, she reflects, the most important discoveries happen not in operating rooms or research labs, but in quiet corridors at 3:17 a.m., when an ordinary person chooses to act extraordinarily in the face of unimaginable evil.